crucial point in time. So Xenon is now legitimately in the crosshairs of this match with Yuno, because the chapter, what I thought was going to be more of a Yuno chapter, and then I was like, okay, maybe it's a Golden Dawn chapter. It's actually more of a Langris chapter, which was surprising. Like, I like Langris, but Langris has always been one of those characters that I enjoy his presence, but I'm never really excited for him to do much. Like, I don't know, it's always been a character that I've kind of been like, on for the most part. Regardless of which, I thought this was a really good chapter because it gave a lot of Langris' perspective of his idea of the Golden Dawn, as well as like Yuno's spot in the Golden Dawn since his arrival and where he's at now. And I think one of the big things about Langris' character since the whole elf resurrection has been the whole role of vice captain of the Golden Dawn, because obviously it's been something that's been kind of shaky since his whole issue. And then the guy who he was having his own personal issues with is now, in his spot, and not only that, he's way more powerful and way more capable of, with magic in general than anything that Langris has done, like, not even close. Like, the whole spirit forms and whatnot, spirit weapons, those are obviously well beyond Langris, and not only that, like, he did a better job as a vice captain of the Golden Dawn than Langris did. So, the chapter itself, like, it obviously, like, has to do with, like, starting out with Yuno, who's like, Langris, give me 3 minutes, and then I can try and, work up and, some big all-in spell on that being, this badass bow that we've got on screen. But like, I'm so indifferent about, like, this shot. This is one of those parts where I can see it going, like, I'll be happy if for a lot of different areas of, like, where this could result in, and I'll talk that in a minute. But Langris' spot, I really did like also the description about the whole spatial domination and how you can kind of, like, combat it. Like, the first one is like, okay, you are equal or greater than the caster in mana, and just general magic amount. And that's one of those things that all of the devils to a degree have had a form of, like, trash hammer ability. With Zagreus, he had, like, the magic, like, leeches. With the twins, they have their whole burning and freezing spells and whatnot. With Megiku's decaying world, and with Xenon absolute space. I guess with Dante and by proxy Lucifer, it'd be like the presence of the Demon King. It's not as, like, mess entirely with your magic as the other ones, but it'd just be like, it would do so much strain on your physical body that, what are you really going to do after that? But I have liked that all the devils have had that so far. But the whole adding of, like, if you are equal to or greater than that of whoever's casting it, you're going to pretty much be fine. That just makes sense. I always just like it when we have wording on that, like, and information given out, so people don't act like, oh, well, absolute space beats everybody. It's like, well, no, logically, it can't beat everybody. Well, it beats everybody. Like, we don't know when the limitations are. I'm like, well, that doesn't mean you can't assume there are no limitations, and I just get mad after that point. But the second one after that is people beloved by mana. So I'm wondering if that is Tabata giving a little bit of nudge of the whole, like, what exactly beloved by mana results to. Because it's still so vague, we don't really know what the capabilities that Yuno has, like, set for him. Well, I'd be wondering, just by the description of, like, how it is in this chapter, of it being able to mess with, like, the whole absolute space. Would it be, like, AoE kind of, like, general spells like this, something like absolute space, or, any of the other ones I mentioned, like the King World or Presence of the Demon King? Maybe they wouldn't work on Yuno. Maybe it could also be like something like Mana Zone. Maybe like Mana Zone, like any of the advantages you would generally have against somebody, like diminishing their mana, like messing with them within your space, wouldn't really apply to Yuno, because it's like, well, you only have the mana in your body, like the mana around the area. Maybe that itself is what, like, the whole beloved by mana thing. Like, you couldn't use the environment's mana against Like, maybe it's something like that, where it's like, well, I'm going to try and gather up the mana in the area, and it's like, well, no, he's beloved by mana, so he prevents that idea from happening. You'd have to go directly of just the magic in your body, because it's not like he's invulnerable. I mean, Yuno's clearly got damage on him, even in this panel. He's got some cuts on his cheeks and stuff. But the last thing are spatial mages who have mastered Mana Zone, pretty much just doing what they can to, like, push back against, like, this spatial magic, like envelopment all around them. And with Langris, it's interesting because his is is pretty much making a defensive spell through offensive like capabilities, and I'm wondering like how busted this could be, because could he put this up like around him, and like the spatial defense is one thing, but think of what he could do in combo, because something like Seki's Magnum Cannonball, it's not that impressive when you really look at like a lot of characters. But for like the major like idea of Black Clover, there's tons of characters who didn't make the Magic Knights. Like Seki obviously passed, and you have tons of people who don't even really have the capabilities to even attempt. Like some people just aren't powerful at all whatsoever. Seki's Magnum Cannonball is actually pretty good in reality when you look at it from the grand scheme and compare it to the average wizard, because it's a spell that does both offense and defense at the same time. Now think of it if Langris was able to do his whole spatial magic bubble and then shoot out those little, like, was it like the fallen down angel things, whatever they're called, the little orbs that he shoots and like, or spatially that erases like a little everything in the sphere pretty much, just completely says nope to it and spatially erases it. But after that, you have more of the conversation, well, I guess inner monologue of Langris and him thinking about, oh well, when I was the vice captain of the Golden Dawn, it was more about kind of like my skill in spatial magic, being near in, he says invincible, but it's like, yeah, there's definitely ways around spatial magic. I mean, like, there's also people that have special spells that kind of say nope to spatial magic. Like put Yami up here and try and do your spatial bumble, it's going right through, so I don't know what you're doing. Or relatively anybody that could just like beat spatial magic. I mean, there's always like people who are outright way more powerful than Langris, but like abilities in general, it's like, man, just be a little careful. You're nothing too crazy. I mean, obviously he's really young, so it's not like by the time he reached his like upper 20s, he wouldn't be way more powerful. He's just pretty much cocky for his age, and we're seeing that flashback. But obviously, this is long back. We even see that part where he fights the mucus dude from the Diamond Kingdom, and the way that he's describing it pretty much is like he wanted to climb the ranks by himself and do everything he can to, pretty much get to whatever the next step is, make himself stronger. But the difference between him and Yuno is Yuno, like, with his competitive spirit and obviously, like, just the nature of him, he's guiding along a lot of other members of the Golden Dawn, and he's making other people around him stronger for it. And that's what I meant when it came down to Yuno being a better vice captain, because Langris could be strong all day, but it doesn't really mean anything if he doesn't have any real leadership qualities. He's only in that spot because he's strong. Whereas like Yuno's strong, and clearly he is doing a really good job at bringing forward the people directly adjacent to him and putting them in a higher standing with their magic and capabilities. I would say when he's talking about like the Golden Dawn being like the ultimate magic brigade. I mean, the Black Bulls are there. I mean, I don't know what you mean, man. I mean, you guys got better markings, but it's like, who would you really put your money on if they're like, hey, we're going to do a match, all the Black Bulls versus all the Golden Dawn? And I know there's for the people making Golden Dawn jokes, but don't worry about it. It wouldn't really matter. Give them all the Golden Dawn, and they're still getting clapped. I mean, really, you look at like who they have. It's like, cool, you got Yuno, you got William, you guys got Langris, but it's like, look at the Black Bull people. It's like, come on, man, just sit down. I know you got some pride for the Golden Dawn, but just take the seat right there. That's when Yuno ends up pulling up his sick bow, because Langris is like, he's messing with the spatial, domination to a degree, the whole absolute space, and he's able to erase some of Xenon's whole bone tendrils as they're coming in, but he's not able to get all of them. He's able to get like attacked, like he just gets pierced in a couple ways, slashed in some other areas of his body. But with this, now Yuno is able to get charged up and have this sick bow. And I've mentioned, I have been wanting Yuno to go back to archery since really he got that, the Spirit of Zephyr, which also this very much confirms that his Spirit of things are the weapons and not the forms. So the one form that we saw when he first started up this match isn't a new form. It's just I would assume a perfected version of his Spirit Dive, or at least a much more developed version. And the Halberd is the spirit of Boreas. It's not like that form specifically. I think that just, the question definitely existed because the form was slightly different to what he had before. But, I mean, that could just be him mastering his form more. Either way, very happy to see how this arrow goes and how it's going to like work or not working at Xenon. I'm hoping that like the arrow itself isn't anything that's going to be like crazy hard to like explain or get complicated like in general description. My hopes is just like it's a very powerful arrow, but because of the nature of it being wind, that Yuno could do some crazy stuff with it. Like I imagine this. Yuno shoots the arrow. Xenon puts up a portal to try and you know, pretty much teleport it into a different area and have it miss. But it's like you would get down to it and just imagine like right before the arrow is about to hit that portal, it dissipates and then reforms directly on the opposite side of it and just keeps going. I think that would be really sick. Like that's a really simplistic ability. You can kind of like how to describe it when you look at like some of the other characters now, like OP some of their abilities are. But like think of how useful that would be. Like you would be able just to completely say nope around most characters' defenses and just completely like deal direct slashes. It's like if you were able to super home and you were able to pretty much just say every time like, okay, that you can dodge, but my attack's still gonna hit you. You know, I'm using wind, so unless you go somewhere where there's no wind whatsoever, I've got you on lock. So it could go a lot of ways. Xenon could destroy it. We can have Xenon defeated. The only thing I'll say is that if Xenon is defeated, if Tabata wants to get rid of him relatively soon, and it's not going to be some twist where, you know, he's going to have a bigger role later on in the arc or whatnot, is if he does defeat Xenon, I don't want it to sit on that fight too long, because I want to see what exactly Tabata's larger scale plans are for this arc. Because like with the defeat of like Megicula and whatnot, and obviously Dante and Xenon, well, not yet Xenon, we've had, you know, the twins. We haven't had any parts where it's really getting pushed back since like the, you know, reinforcement showed up. They beat Monica and Megicula. They ran through Dante, you know, the twins and whatnot. There has to be an area that like the Clover Kingdom isn't able just to immediately kind of like overtake and defeat, because not just from the idea of like it's, you know, they got to build some tension in the war arc and stuff. It's like, well then this whole Spade Kingdom is pretty much going to be done soon. And like if Tabata doesn't have like another gate get open, or maybe it's like, oh, Morris has one of those like this is all according to plan kind of moments. We can get some Eisen scheming going on from him. Either way, it's a pretty good chapter. Obviously, like it felt short, but I think it's just because it was like 14 to 15 pages. There wasn't a ton of dialogue, and it was way more centered on Langris, where I don't have a ton to say about Langris. I do like obviously how far he's come. His character has definitely developed a good amount, but I want to see exactly how this fight more goes, like than anything, just to see like what more of like not just like fight conclusion, but like trying to figure out what Tabata's plan is moving forward. What exactly is he going to do with Xenon, and does he have any more plans for the Dark Triad in general? And that to me is like one of the big question marks going into the next couple chapters, really. Like everything beyond like this until we get to the next major plot event, like whatever's going on in the story. Once we get to like I said, either another gate opens up and we see some more devils, or if Morris does something, or maybe Dante comes back and Dante's like, all right, I'm gonna actually fight and not be a overly cocky idiot who gets caught in stuff kind of thing. I would like that, because I like Dante, but it's like, yeah, you know what happened to him is what happens to characters like that who just decide not to dodge things entirely. Like I know that he didn't look at it and be like, well, I'll just let it hit me, but it's like, dude, you have to be prepped, and you have to assume that any of these characters are gonna have some form of OP ability. I feel like that would be something just to kind of like keep as a standard. Like you go into a fiction verse like this and you see like some of the hacks that characters have, and it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna assume that everybody's gonna have some really dangerous spell. Like imagine fighting Yami and then you see him do his regular like lightless slashes and stuff, and then he does dimension slash, but he doesn't say anything about the spell. And you're like, oh, I'll just block it, and it's like, well, it's gonna cleave right through you, my guy. It's just going right through. So that is pretty much how that would go. Like you gotta be a little more careful with those abilities. Either way, you know, Dante hopefully will recover, and Xenon's fate is soon to be decided. I want that arrow to do something cool. Like actually, what I think I would believe, rather, not fumble in my own words. What I think would be the coolest area to go would be something kind of like the whole Gaja using his ultimate magic against Megicula the whole time, where it's like you see the damage from the attack, like you see the Yuno's arrow do this big crazy explosion, do a really cool looking you know, a hurricane from where the shot hit, and then we get back to it, and it's like we see the damage, but Xenon isn't fully defeated. And then whatever exactly, does his double take over? Are we gonna get Xenon to reveal that he's the strongest Triad member, or are we gonna get his you know, his Dark Disciples to pop? Is there going to be some form of crazy twist with Xenon, or is it going to be Tabata getting prepped up to go into the larger stuff with, like, the bigger doubles and everything? So, ending it here, like I said, I'm very happy about, you know, having a Pogan, finally. And it's going to really depend on where this arrow goes. Like, this arrow is a big deciding factor into what exactly is going to be the following events of... Are the Spade Kingdom going to open up another gate? Is there going to be something else crazy they're going to, you know, airlift in? Or are they going to be out of options already, and then it's just going to be down to Morris making some last-second moves? Who knows? Either way, comment below, thumbs up the video, friend the like button, subscribe button, check out my other videos. But that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.